Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Citizen Central Podcast, the monthly talk with four great people from around the Star Citizen community, and we try to pick on some of the bigger topics of the game. This time, one of people's favorites. Everybody likes some ships, right? We're going to talk about: are there too many ships in Star Citizen? Are we getting a little bloated? Is there too much stuff to fly? Is it too fun? And
too much fun.
Yeah. Joining me today, we've got a whole crew. I'd like to let you guys just introduce yourselves, honestly, this time. So, starting from the top, Astro Historian, can you give folks the rundown? Who are you? Why'd you come here?
Hello, my name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, the Astro Historian and the Astro Pub. I do lore. I do the Captain's Table, which is another long form podcast. Has been around for a very long time. Gosh, what else? You can catch me at twitch.tv/theastropub for when I go live. So yeah, that's me.
Cool. My camera just overheated, so I'm still here, guys. Don't worry about that.
I thought you were doing an Algrid and having a stroke, but yeah.
No.
Camera had a stroke.
That's what we call it when Algrid does that. Like when he drops out, he just does like a weird face and drops out.
Yeah, camera gave up for the day. Long streams. Execute. Yeah. Who are you?
I'm the space hobo. No, Execute. Work at the Infrunners. Paul comes around sometimes. Space comes around sometimes, as does Loken. Marcus has never had the opportunity, but we'll have to get him in at some point. And Algrid, obviously, and that's about it now at the moment. But we talk about ships. If you can't tell, I'm not very functional right now. I've just come off the end of AIE, doing a video or two every day for 2 weeks. My brain is cooked.
Yeah.
Infrunners kind of sums it up.
Infrunners is the place to go for like ship talk, just all the time. Does a good job of getting folks together who like ships to talk about ships. That's generally like this would be an Infrunners panel if you know you were hosting the show, especially with both you and Astro Historian and Loken here. It's basically an Infrunners show, and we did a show earlier this week.
Now you get to drive, and we get to fuck with you for a change.
Yeah.
I have to believe that. Sorry.
No, that's Mrs. Tomato.
Only it's these guys stuffing with me. Yeah, she's putting down strikes against my name already. I feel like that every time I do a podcast, it's like Honey's going judging. But anyway.
But we do a lot of Infrarunner shows together, so we obviously will get off on tangents and everything. But thank you for joining me today, guys. Marcus, my man.
What's going on? My name is Marcus. I make SC content now. I originally started YouTube making car content. Then I saw SC and I was just like, oh, this is really cool. So I started making content on that. More recently, I've been talking more ships, but I also live stream on YouTube and Twitch. And you can just look my name up, Marcus Wynn, on YouTube and Twitch.
It's pretty nice because like covering ships in this game is basically like covering cars.
Pretty much.
You could just take a 1-for-1 ship review. It looks like a car review, which is pretty cool. Thanks for coming in today. Loken.
Welcome.
Hi everyone, my name's Loken. I go by the name Loken Plays on pretty much all social media and all various channels. I primarily live stream, so I'm mostly found on Twitch, live streaming 5 days a week, pretty much Monday through Friday. I stream lots of Star Citizen, do other games too, and occasionally I dip my toe into making YouTube videos. It's kind of taken a backseat recently, but hey, you never know, I might get back to it at some point.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me, Loken. I met you about a year ago, man, and I remember you were kind of getting back into the swing of things, and this last year of growth for you has been amazing to see. Glad you've been able to get back to YouTube as well.
Yes, yeah, slowly but surely. It's been a bit of a weird year, but we'll get there eventually. I'll make a YouTube video, I promise. Eventually, at some point.
Eventually.
Has anybody not had a weird year in 2023? This year was crazy.
That's an odd one, yeah.
Definitely
a weird year. So
it's like every year since
my year's been like very low, and then like the past like 4 weeks, like my channel's just been skyrocketing, so it's been pretty fun.
Oh, nice. Well, that's good, dude. Good to hear.
I've been watching.
Oh,
that's like
so one of the things I do is I follow a lot of smaller people, and I just watched you go like that, which is really good to see.
Oh, thank you.
There are a couple of times during the year I feel like our chances to sort of, it's like Star Citizen's just a moving train. Those are the chances to hop on the track. It's like May, June ish, and October, November, like really good times to start gaining some momentum. And that actually is, gosh,
Like it's around the sales space.
Yeah,
It's like
and
it's
I
directly around the
Right.
sales.
I didn't even plan this. It's just it falls together, but that rolls right into my first question, which is,
Mm.
what do you guys think is the biggest event of the year?
The one just gone easily.
IAE, simple as, yeah.
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 Easy.
Cool.
Easy.
Okay.
It even overshadows CitizenCon in a lot of ways.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well,
I would
Weirdly,
say close to, like, CitizenCon's close to it, just because
Yeah.
there's a lot of information.
It
But,
depends
like,
on what content you do, though, because for
Yeah.
us, AIA is bigger, but CitizenCon this year was the biggest it's ever been. So that's
Yeah.
makes it real tough.
Yeah, so then another angle on that question, what is your favorite event? What is the one that you like the most?
Sleep.
So not IAE then. you like January.
I'm not a big fan of the free flies just because of what they do to the server. But I do
Yeah.
like to see the new ships that are coming out, the new ships that are going to be in development. So that is fun to see. But the servers, like, I don't really play. I learned my lesson last year to not play during the free flies because the servers are just so bad. So
yeah, I can get
I'll
that.
be back to more streaming next week.
It definitely, I trick myself every year thinking, hey, something might have been fixed. Going all the way back to, I think, the first Invictus week, which was awful in terms of performance. Every year I'm like, maybe it'll be better. But you know what I like is that you can go to each free fly event as somebody who's just like watching from the background. And the performance of the free fly event is actually a really good indicator of how the game's doing. Because if you do go to a free fly event and suddenly it's good, you're like, I can buy this now.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
nice.
I will say the performance of the free fly event this year was better than I've ever experienced it
Yeah.
at a free fly.
100%.
Um,
I've streamed every single day of it, and it's been fine. And that's like 5-6 hours. Just no issue, no factor. Just
For me, it was just
But-
bad going to Microtech. If I stayed away from Microtech,
Yeah.
I can usually do it.
oh yeah. The
People want to go
Microtech
see the ships. The people want to like go to the show. I'm just like, it's going to be a slideshow if I go there, guys.
Well, I heard there was
That's
a
why-
literal glitch that was causing it
Yeah.
to be a slideshow, like a rendering glitch.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was an actual like it was something really, really like obvious as well when you got told it. I got it DM'd in stream like, don't repeat this. I'm like, wait, what? That's causing problems? Really?
Okay.
I don't know. It was so
Why
odd.
we moved to the website a few years ago, because it was just, you're not going to have those issues.
Yep.
We used to go in game and walk around and talk about every single ship, and it just got to the point that it was unreliable. Depending on where the patch was and the quality of the patch, and then the free fly when they dropped. Do you remember the first time they dropped the free fly on Paul? It would have been like you just couldn't even get in.
Was that 2019?
Oh yeah, well, and that's when I think that was the year where we switched to the website because we just didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And it was shocking. Yeah.
Yeah, IAE is a particularly heavy time. And I think, as you guys said, it's the biggest event of the year. They make most of their money. It brings in most of the hype. And honestly, like you said, Loken, coming in right after CitizenCon, they really just ride the hype that CitizenCon created. And I think
They
probably
do,
made
yeah. This year, especially 100%,
Yeah.
because CitizenCon was such a hit and people were really like,
Yeah.
all right, let's go. There was more hype toward IAE, which has made this IAE a really good one. And they've had quite a solid amount of releases this year too. So
Yeah.
I would say that like CIG started off a bang with the F8 when they did the F8 event, and then they've been just going up in
yeah.
sort of like
Just kind of like popping it up all the way along.
yeah, it's every
Yeah.
couple of weeks it's something that just kind of drop because you expect it to die down, but it just it keeps going up in terms of, I wouldn't say hype, I guess it would say excitement.
Yeah.
Because it's not really hype, it's people like waiting for cool things. Just something comes out and people are like, this is awesome, let's do this. Oh yeah, let's do this. So
and
it's
interesting
a little
news
less-
too. Like they have a
Yeah.
lot to
Yeah.
keep going because the replication layer separation,
Yep.
322, cargo refactor stuff. Like there's just a ton that they can kind of pluck the strings of for the next couple months now, I think, to keep excitement going. Maybe even through, I mean, not through January because they won't really be saying much, but there's a lot of, I think, anticipation now building up to Q1 next year, partially because of obviously leaks and stuff, but also because like they said, hey, Squadron 42 stuff next 12 months. I think everybody was kind of expecting it to start next year rather than in December. So there could be a lot more excitement in the first quarter of next year than we have had before.
that's kind of what I'm expecting, if I'm honest. Given the trajectory that CIG's been taking just this last sort of like, few months onwards, and again, as you know, I think we all pay attention to leaks here. So, they obviously take everything that you hear and see there with a pinch of salt, but it gives you a good idea, kind of the general theme of what's going on. Yeah,
So
we are looking. Sorry, go on.
Especially if it vibes with the like monthly reports.
Yes,
and the other stuff
you
they put
have
out.
to cross-reference it with what CIG is saying, and then you can kind of make an educated kind of guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of what I'm seeing from leaks is vibing with a lot of what CIG is saying. So I'm like, okay, the Q1's going to be interesting. It's going to be good.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's weird. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, that's not normal.
Because for those of you who
weird
are
thing, because it's good on good on good on good on good, and we don't see that.
we don't
It's
see
usually
that.
this roller coaster shit, and it's just like
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Q1 usually is a kind of a dead patch for CIG.
Yeah,
Like,
usually.
they usually coming off of the hype. It's usually a very mellow patch.
Yeah. It's a very, very dead time for them. So
Yeah, I especially think if 322 comes out and it's like good, it's just gonna make next year even better.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, 322 could finish this year off
Can I-
nice.
Can I put a question out there? Is this the breaking of the dam that we've been talking about? Is this the start of it? Is this the wall starting to come down as we get into the release of Squadron 42? Is this the start of it? Is this just the crest of the dam starting to peel back?
I think
Or do
there's
you
a
think
couple
that's a little
dams, to
bit-
be honest. I think they've
Yeah.
It's a bit
they've got a
down
few
the road.
reservoirs to go through. Yeah, I think the first one, honestly, dam, metaphorically speaking, I think was a couple of years ago when they started to get in more of the features that actually mattered to us. Like we got inventory,
Like gameplay.
we got medical system, we got salvage. Took a little while, but
Salvage.
like cargo refactor, all of that stuff kind of started to get developed at the same time. And I
Tractor
feel like
beams, like
came
hand
out.
tractor beams.
Mm.
yeah, this definitely feels like another sort of moment though, with Squadron 42 definitely coming.
I
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
I wouldn't. I'm going to put on my skeptic hat and say I don't think this is the breaking of the dam, though. I do think this is the indication that, like, maybe like a test run, as it were, to see if CIG can maintain their momentum beyond the sale, because
Right.
they always have momentum in the sales. They come out of the sales with great momentum. And I don't mean just by like purchasing, because like I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, because I was even talking about it earlier, just like CIG is on track to beat their record-breaking year last year, this year, which people were dooming about it earlier, like earlier
Yep.
this year. CIG's not going to do it. What's going to go wrong? What's going to happen? And now they're set to like break that record again. And that's not even the full thing. It's more like if CIG can propel the momentum where people are enjoying themselves, and it seems like it's a really successful release, the people who work there feel better about their jobs. They're less stressed. The people will be more excited and more engaged to do more things, to go out of the box and try to do new ideas, or to like continue to go forward. So if they can keep this momentum going, they might actually be able to like pick up the community's mentality and the developers, their whole like internal culture. And that will help a lot for the release of Squadron, and of course, the eventual breaking of the dam when we start to see the last foundation bits put in, and now there's just gameplay coming out, sort of thing. So, but I don't think we're quite there yet. I think this is just kind of like that. Can they maintain momentum? And if they can, then they know how to like schedule people for time off, and get those those things you don't think about when it comes to game development. Like,
It's a morale
what if
boost.
someone's it's a morale boost.
I would add to this, like my litmus test is going to be Invictus next year, because my thing is all about the servers, right? If we get to Invictus next year and it's kind of like more of the same, going to showrooms and things like that, and it's just unplayable, then it's just like, okay, well, they still have a little bit more to go on their server tech and making sure that it's all stable and having free flies and all that. Because for me, if their whole thing is about making this universe like immersive and like all this stuff, but the servers can't handle it, for me, the game's not ready. But if we get to Invictus next year, because that's what it's going to be like, what, Q2 of next year? So we're going to be almost halfway through the year, and Invictus is running great. They can have like the Idris, the Bengals, and all this stuff flying around, and we're getting good FPS everywhere on the servers. Then I think it's going to be like, okay, now we're moving forward. Now we probably will see the dam break towards the end of next year.
Potential
Yeah, I
for
think-
Polaris to add into that mix too. I'm not saying it will, but could possibly come out around there as well.
Yeah, it's a
Mm,
lot
the
of
way it's
lot of
going.
mystery as to where we'll be by that point. There's so many possible timelines with their server meshing stuff they're doing right now. I'm excited to know what we're going to be having at May, though, because everything that we're going to see, I think by the time it's May, is going to be exciting compared to what we're seeing now. Like, we're not really seeing that many features at the end of their cycle now, or at their mid-cycle. Most of them we're seeing at their end, like, or at their beginning. Base building, FPS stuff, like all of that is stuff we're either about to get or we just got revealed. So it feels like the next 6 months is pretty exciting. Looking forward. But
The next 6 months, I was going to say, the next 6 months always seems to go faster for me than the previous 6 months. I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but it always seems to be like that. That break always seems to go way quicker.
Yeah. Let's talk about sort of before we get into the meat of this discussion. I want to go back to this question of what event is most important and talk more about the actual pieces of those events. Basically, comparing CitizenCon to IAE, in my mind, is comparing a development discussion to a ship discussion. And I'm interested in knowing, for you guys, what's more important. Is it the ships being made or the features that they'll use?
Ooh.
I say the features. Well, ships technically are features, but
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. I say the features because outside of the ships, what makes the game work are the features. So things like the star map, things like Tomatoes having issues earlier with the mission logic. All of these things matter to make the game playable. And
Hey,
if
dude, it's a skill
the
issue.
game is
Don't worry.
not, if the game's not, if none of these systems like work cohesively together, it doesn't matter like what ships you have in the game. You're still going to be left with the same end result of it not feeling immersive and not feeling fun to play. Because he was right in his assessment earlier. It's just like I don't want to build up my bounties. I don't want to have to jump across the verse to go shoot a guy for 15 seconds. So I think that features matter more for me more than the ships, although the ships are an important part too. But it's just like we have so many ships in the game already that don't have their full feature set. So it's just like, can we get all the features in the backlog into the game first and then worry about the ships later on? That's just my take.
I think personally they're hand in hand. You get a mining ship, it needs mining. You get a science ship, it needs science. Like they right now we've got this essentially an infancy of combat and cargo and mining, and that's about it. Right? You really need like every ship's going to have a personality, and if they're structured into a certain gameplay loop, they need that gameplay, or they just don't compute. Essentially,
There's so much combat. We have so many combat
much.
ships.
Yeah, it's a bit too much combat, isn't there? Let's be honest. It's the most overdeveloped aspect of it of Star Citizen is its combat, especially when it comes to the fighter sort of like space combat aspects, which is consistently developed. But to
and
kind
they're
of
overpriced as well because of that.
Yes.
indeed, but to kind of grab on the coattails of Execute there, I tend to agree. I think that I think features of Gen ships are not mutually exclusive. One, I think they both synergize with each other so intrinsically, and ultimately, Star Citizen is, it's a ship game. It's a game about flying starships in space and engaging with space in that regard. It's your main vehicle for exploration and all sorts, and as a result, they are hand in hand. I think that definitely though. It's always exciting to see new features coming into the game. It's always exciting to see new stuff coming in, and we're always like super hyped. But simultaneously, I'm always jazzed and so happy to see a brand new ship come out. I'm like, yeah, let's go. What's this? What does this do? So yeah, I think they're both really important.
It's definitely, they've gotten better at shipping ships with features than they used to. You see a ship like the Sulin come in and it has something unique to it as opposed to just being another ship.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be kind of back up Marcus in this one. Just that I think CIG definitely needs to get features in, though I do think that the features and ships go hand in hand. But without those features, those ships become just dustbins. A good example is a multi-crew gaming, like or even cargo. Let's look at the Raft. The Raft was released when they thought they were going to have a lot more stuff done, and they didn't. And I always like to put it when it was like literally like 3 weeks before that, they said, we're not going to release a ship without its gameplay. And then they released the Raft without its gameplay. And it still doesn't have its gameplay. Like it's still broken because even though they have all those stuff in there, so like there's a lot of ships that they're not going to do, like say the Banu Merchantman or any of the larger ships, because they need like multi-crew gameplay to be able to function. So I feel like the more important part is the features, because without the features they can't develop the ships to like match those features.
Yeah.
It's more of
Marcus is not wrong on his assessment.
Yeah.
Like it is more important. It's just that the ships need them as well. It's
Yeah.
I don't know how to
Yeah.
word that.
A good point. A good
Go
point.
hand in hand. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, a
Go
good
ahead,
point
sorry.
to Carrick. Like the doors don't open on those bottom cargo bays. It's like it makes the ship essentially useless as a cargo ship.
Dude,
It's
we
like,
could sit here. We could sit here for a week rattling off things that things need.
Yeah.
And that's
We'll be here a long time.
That's
Yeah.
where the conversation comes from, really. Is, I mean, I'm in agreement. Like they go hand in hand. At the end of the day, I'm a lot more features oriented. Like I would take CitizenCon over IAE any day, because a lot of the features live outside of ships too, and so that's more what I look for. But I look and I see ships being released, and I do wonder. I think everybody's got their line of when maybe they think there are enough ships, maybe they think there's enough of a certain type of ship, or maybe they think that a ship doesn't have enough to sell it coming out. And the Cutter Scout, I think, is an example of this. It's a cool ship. It's a good looking ship. It's got good function, and they introduced it with features, but it didn't actually come out with features. And I don't think I really got to hear much of the community's feeling about the Cutter Scout, because it got swept away under all the other new ships that came out. But I guess I want to start talking about the ships that have come out and sort of where they fit in the game, and hear your guys' thoughts on the rate at which these ships are coming out. But let's start with the Cutter Scout. What did you guys think of this ship and the way that it's coming into the game?
I like the Scout. I do. I think it's just like the regular cutter. It's a cute little ship that's well designed. And again, it was a $5 upgrade off of a cutter, so I kind of just went for it because I couldn't really resist. But as an actual ship itself, it has nothing. It doesn't do anything because it hasn't got that sign of that. It's got a big old AWACS radar dish on top of it, right? Almost, there's no scanning or data running or any kind of gameplay that fits into that. So it's essentially useless. It's just me thinking to myself, well, it's $5, and in the future it might boost radar. So yay, I'll go grab it. But yeah, it wasn't like it didn't come out to any great fanfare, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you guys see any videos really highlighting it? Marcus, did you make anything on it?
I didn't make anything on it just because like I knew like what's the difference between this ship and the regular cutter.
Mhm.
It's just a skin and a radar dish at this point. Without having its gameplay, the ship is essentially useless. Like I have one myself, and I only got one because I got the Scout during IAE because of what they said the ship was going to be in the future. Like having that ship that can do that long range scanning is going to be essential for crude gameplay, I think. And having a smaller ship that can do that is essential in my opinion. But not having it in the game right now, currently, like they could have waited to release that ship and given us like a different ship to put out that's actually useful in the game.
I do.
And to that point, I made a ship comparison video on my channel between the Carrack and the Odyssey, and my point was the Odyssey having a tractor beam, a mining head. It's a more useful ship in terms of like what you can actually do in the game versus the Carrack, which has all these cool features, but they don't work in the game. So I would much rather have a ship in the game that actually can do something with its tractor beam and its mining laser versus a ship that's a big 4-5 medbed.
Yeah,
so you're talking now versus release, though. That's
and that's like,
Yeah.
I mean, Inforunners, that's your big thing on the channel, right? Everybody is posting pictures of their fleets, but in reality, those fleets are maybe have 15% of their actual utility, and it's like, do you focus on these ships for what you're doing now or later?
No, I always go for later personally because you have to buy them based on what they're gonna be. Because if you're based on what they are now, it's a joke.
I mean, hey, look at what people are saying though when they make their purchases. Oh, this thing is, they just nerfed this. I don't want this anymore. Or they just released another ship. This thing is useless. Why would I have this anymore?
Depends on what type of person you are too. Like there are a lot of people that come to us and they just don't know what they want to do in the game because they don't have they aren't. You know, some people can like imagine and you know, kind of like speculate a bit. There are other people that hate to speculate, so they don't want to.
Yeah.
It's like people that have backed the game now because we want to see it become into fruition, and the people that are not going to buy the game until it's out and it's proven and it's, you know, they want that security of it being real and tangible. It's the same type of thing in that regard. I was going to say, I just want to say, talk about the Cutter Scout before we move on.
Yep.
We did a buyer's guide on it, and I think the really important thing is to actually highlight the Terrapin here, because that is essentially the ship you really need to compare it against. And I think it, for me, it highlighted just how overpriced that Terrapin is.
It really
You've essentially
is.
got a, like, what is it, a $50 ship versus a $220 ship. That ship should never have been up that high. That's almost a Cutlass Steel. In time, like as over time, it's got worse and worse.
The thing should be like, it should just be indestructible. Like that thing's gotta be super powerful.
The Terrapin's going to need something special to bring it back into actually
Yeah.
being worth that much, you know?
Yeah.
Which they could do. But yeah, I agree with XQ. It has highlighted that quite enormous difference. Actually, I found the Sulian did the same thing, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah. So, jumping deeper into this question, too many ships. I think there's a couple different angles to look at this from. There is redundancy, and then there's also the tech debt that it's creating. I want to talk about the redundancy first. When do you think we're having a problem where there's too many ships when you're looking at the different ships we have? So, for instance, you just mentioned that the Terrapin should be compared to the Cutter. What if there was a third ship in there, or a fourth ship? Like, when does it start to be too much, in your opinion?
Isn't one of the F7s also a scanning ship?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's another one.
Ghost? Is it?
Not quite the same, but yeah, there are some ships you can chuck in there.
But there are scanning ships that are meant for different things. So there's also that.
So I think the Cutter and the Terrapin are closest, but you could essentially also compare go as high as the Carrack, I think, and start to compare things like based on the scanning stuff.
Yeah.
But everything you said, like about them just not being in, it's another gameplay feature. And again, you have to speculate on what they're going to be, right? And it's really hard because the only thing you can really do with the Terrapin versus the Cutter Scout is this has one scanner, this has two. That's it.
And they can always change those stats.
Yeah.
Right.
So that it's hard to say then when there are too many. I mean, it's like maybe that's not the limiting factor for too many ships. Then maybe it's the tech debt. So we're looking at systems that they need to start getting in for gold standards. We're talking about Maelstrom, engineering, the new flight models, master modes, proper animations, MFDs, UI. Like there's a lot of stuff they have to keep all 160 plus of these ships up to date. You think that's going to be what cuts them off?
Well, you've got the time scale as well, like because tier 0 to tier 3 or whatever you want to call it, right? As things go along, every ship is going to eventually be brought up to a standard. But over time, even if two ships are at the same standard, all of a sudden, like I was saying, one scanner versus two. Now, I know they would both come in like at the same time, but imagine they both got one scanner, then all of a sudden the Terrapin got a second one. You know what I mean? Like eventually, that's kind of, when people talk about the meta, so to speak, that's what's going to, stir up the meta, because some other ship is going to get a pass and some part of it is going to step in front of the other one.
Yeah.
And that is just happening all the time. Yeah.
So power creep.
It's a really complicated compound issue.
Yeah.
It's not a simple one to discuss. And ultimately, for me personally, I'm gonna be honest with you, okay? I'm one of those guys who I love more ships. I gotta be honest with you. I do. I love vehicles. I love tech. I love these different SKUs. And for me personally, so long as as long as there is a particular role that ship is produced is say for example you got a scanning ship, right? It's there for a specific thing. I wouldn't mind there being different manufacturers that all do the same sort of job, because it gives you different SKUs on that. I don't mind that personally. I don't mind there being like a Drake one or an RSI one or an Anvil one,
Sure.
Even if they're all the same thing, because I don't know. I like having the variety myself, but it's obviously going to be an issue because they already have a ton of ships. They're going to be, CRJ is going to continue to add them because, well, they are, and ultimately you are going. I think they're always going to be in debt. I don't think there's ever going to be a time when they're not in debt. when it comes to bringing things up to a standard. I just think
I would
constantly
agree.
gonna be
I would
chasing
agree with
the tail.
that. I would agree with that. And it's
That's
like for me, it's like cars, right? Like how many manufacturers make sports cars? Just
Yeah.
about everyone makes a sports car. Does that mean there's too many sports cars? No, it's just like people are going to choose based on what they like. So there's a people out there that will only get Drake ships. They're only going to fly Drake ships. There are people out there that they're only going to fly Anvil ships no matter what. People are going to be loyal to their brands. And I think
Yep.
that's one of the things I think CIG is kind of playing on is, building up that lore and building up that fan base for these manufacturers for them to have all the options in the ships that they want.
Yeah.
Like getting away from the scanning, like me personally, I want to see a Crusader Capitalist ship. That's what I want to see.
Oh yes.
And I'm a
Everybody in
Crusader
chat's
boy.
like, yeah.
I'm a Crusader boy, so like I would personally love to see that because I run mostly Crusader ships.
They've
So-
kind of mentioned words to that effect. Like they mentioned years ago they don't want to do direct competitors until eventually you've got the whole kind of thing filled out. But they mentioned they eventually want to make a direct competitor to the Prospector as an example.
Yeah.
So
Every
it would,
Exactly.
yeah.
every once in a while they tip their hand when discussing the scale of vehicles. I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago maybe, they were talking about ground vehicles and somebody said something like, yeah, we're going to have well over 100 ground vehicles. And you're like, oh, you guys are at like 15. So there's...
I think just to mention, I think it's also really important when discussing this topic to remember that these developers, they're not just thinking about the here and now. They're thinking about 5-10 years down the line. They're going to consistently produce ships. This is going to be run like a long scale MMO where they're going to need consistent content. And so, we might eventually end up with 100, vehicles. But if you think about that being 10 years worth of project work, it starts to make a little more sense.
Yeah,
it's not going to be up. It's not going to be front loaded. Is what I'm trying to say.
It's like we're not going to be in 2 star systems for the next 15 years, right?
No, exactly.
This game's going to keep getting built, and that does present the nice future of, yes, just keep making ships, but there has to be some limiting factor, right? Employees.
What about down the road then? I've been thinking of this for a while, and you know how we've got these ships held over at the moment? We've kind of like got the Santok we've got there's a few just sitting there, the Scout Expedition and stuff like that, and they said soon. I'm actually starting to think that we're about to see 2 more sails introduced. And I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but I do think eventually, how they were talking about that quarter patch type of thing, like every 3 months.
Yes,
There are other games that do it, that cadence. I think eventually that's what we're going to see. We're going to see 4 sails a year and essentially a patch and a ship or a bunch of ships coming at that patch and just every quarter, because that will keep the momentum up. If you think about it. You won't get this 6 months lot.
You know what I can't wait for is when they're doing that with star systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
That would be great, man.
Welcome to whatever system, and here's some ships to go with that. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
imagine the hype that we gotten for Pyro just concentrated in 1 quarter every quarter.
My goodness.
That would
stop
be
at
nuts.
that point, yeah.
Yeah.
It's I think they're gonna have to have they're gonna have to continue to increase their staff though on their ship team if they're gonna keep up this rate.
Yeah.
They have been.
I've been doing a video recently for covering the Montreal team, and like after going back and researching the whole story of kind of how that team's been coming together over at Turbulent, it's very clear that was, I mean, they said it when they made it, that their whole point was to make star systems, but man, they're really following through. Like even at this last CitizenCon, they were like, yep, that team's made this ship, they're working on this ship. So
they're
cool
really
to see.
they're really a PU team. I will say, when it comes to the whole discussion about ships and tech debt and all those sorts of things, and like the expansion of the line, I think it's important to note that I think someone already said this as well. It's an MMO. It's never going to stop being developed. It'll always be pushing it.
Yeah.
Will there be a 1.0? Yeah, but 1.0 is never going to look like any MMO when it launches looks completely different a year later.
100%.
That's just the rule, because they have to keep evolving. If they don't keep evolving, they die. And that's the key. So will there be a point where all the ships are up to a standard? Yeah, they'll be up to a standard, but that's then just going to change.
Yeah,
They're gonna
probably
add
never
new
the same
gameplay
one.
loops. They'll add more detail. They'll like I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years down the line, if Star Citizen's still a thing, the ship the whole kind of detail in the shipping, like in terms of like internal parts and stuff, is a lot more complex than CIG ever anticipated, because they're just going to add more stuff. Yeah. Oh, well, what if we added subcomponents or these types of components? Like, because they keep adding new stuff. Like now they've added batteries to the whole components list because they know they want to do that. Who knows? Maybe they'll add, solar panels or battery chargers.
But that was part of it. Just be careful. This is where people get the feature creep thing coming up. The batteries were part of the power thing.
They were, but they didn't have them like they don't have space for them in the ship.
Yeah, they didn't ever plan.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it was planned a couple years ago as part of, and it's not really a feature creep as much as it's, you have an idea of what you want to do, and then when you get to the actual idea, you have to start sketching out those parts, and then you figure out, oh, this works and this doesn't, and that's not really feature creep as much as it's like you have a blurry image, and the closer you get to it, you get clearer and clearer and clearer, and sometimes that final image is going to look different from when you originally saw, like the
like Star Citizen as a whole.
Yeah,
right, 2 points to that though.
That's how all games work, though.
The way the ships are planned out, though, they have component areas, and you can see how they've modeled an area within a space. So essentially, they can modify it and change it if they need to, so they don't have to redo the whole ship. And I think the one you're actually looking for, Paul, would be shield emitters. That was the one that they added. Yeah.
Well, no, they did add. They have added spots like in the walls for batteries for like the I think the C1 has battery slots in it. You don't see batteries in other places.
I meant like feature creep. Like the batteries were talked about. Shield emitters were not talked about. They were just like,
yeah. Let's talk about recent ships that have been revealed, and just, I mean, actually, I guess we're gonna kind of put that discussion to bed. The idea that of too many ships in the game is a constantly changing target, I think, and it sounds very subjective, based on what you think the game should be, and none of us get to decide that. So it's fun to discuss. I think it's a great question to bring up, and it's worth considering, because there will be a lot of repeats and everybody is okay with a certain amount. But I don't think you can really say how many ships is too many.
I can answer it with a question, and it's very quite easily. This is a sim based on essentially real life 1,000 years in the future, right? Just like real life, we are constantly evolving and adding new things to everything. Like there's a new iPhone, there's a new car, there's a new bike. It's going to be the same thing. They're just going to constantly having new shit come out that tramples on the old stuff behind it. And I have no doubt there'll be ships that essentially become almost retired at some point. Yeah, obsolete.
I think the topic of this discussion that we are kind of not really getting into today is that the ships in Star Citizen are intrinsically linked to the success of the game, and their ability to sell those ships is funding the game. So it's not a simple question, because they have to keep making ships, and that kind of muddies that a little bit. But let's actually talk about ships. That's much more exciting, right? We've got a lot of recent ships that came out, and I think the most interesting that I'd like to start hearing what you guys think about is the Arastra. This is kind of came out of nowhere, in my opinion, in terms of like
the Eric Estrada.
I mean, we know that we knew we were going to get an RSI miner, right? But were you guys expecting this sort of a design?
No, I wasn't. No. I wasn't expecting the way it looks. It looks vastly better than I expected. It's a really good looking ship, in my opinion. I love the design language on it. As you can maybe tell, I'm quite a fan of it, actually. It really kind of.
Did you buy?
I may have got one. Leave me alone.
Did you buy it full price?
No, I had community buy it for me because they're nice like that.
You can buy one today for 410.
That's a lot of people have been coming in and telling me about the chains they've got to get money off of their Arastras. But no, simply put, it kind of came out of left field. I thought we'd hit the home run with the Sulian earlier on in the IAE, and then suddenly the Arastra comes out. This bloody beautiful looking RSI ship. It's got all the sex appeal of the RSI's new design language, but in a more industrial package. The damn thing's are gunned to heck and back for a mining vessel. Yeah. And gives a kind of lovely flexibility that I enjoy. I think it fits nicely in its niche of between the Orion and the Mole. I think it's a grand old girl, and a lot of people have been like, yeah, this is actually a nice industrial vessel.
I have a good
Yeah, I
question.
just think
for
it's
you.
no,
go ahead. No.
I was
please.
going to say the design of the ship, I think, is very efficient. If you look at something like, the Reclaimer, it's big and it's bulky and it's this big, massive, a salvage ship, and then you look at the Arastra and it's this beautiful, sleek mining ship that has a refinery on board, and it just shows that how CIG is getting more efficient with their use of space.
100%.
And I think that's going to be like the way forward for just not RSI, but I think a lot of ships going forward are going to have not like that wedge shaped design, but I think the designs overall are just going to be more efficient, and they're going to be laid out in a much better pattern.
Oh yeah, to come up.
Can I ask Marcus a question? Oh
yeah.
With the, let's say, the Galaxy versus the Aristrata, based on value, not even looking at the dollar amount, which ship do you think's kind of better in between those two?
Oh, the Galaxy, because it's modular. It can build bases.
Yeah, and that's why I can't get over the price of that thing. It's just insane for what it is. Anyway, sorry.
Well, man, I have a couple questions now. Do you think first I'll start with Marcus. Do you think that they won't be trying to build purposefully bulky ships to still fill out that like really gross industrial feel?
I don't think so. Maybe yes. It just depends on the manufacturer. But I think overall, making the ships, especially like with engineering, I don't think you want players like running around and having complicated turns, and they have to make ingress and egress throughout the ship a little bit easier if they want us to do engineering gameplay. Because if the ship is complicated to navigate, then it's just going to make engineering gameplay more annoying than actual gameplay.
But I think
I don't
Is
know.
anyone noticing the trend of a lot of people getting really scared about engineering gameplay like it wasn't talked about years ago? There are so many people not recommending big ships at the moment.
Because a lot of people are saying this.
We've been saying it.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
I love engineering gameplay.
AI, player rating system, all these other things that they're going to bring down the pipe.
Sure, but at the end
everything
of
CIG's done that no one else has ever done before, if anyone was ever to pull it off, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Based on everything they've done up until this point.
I don't know.
It's a tough call. I'll give you that much. But
at
I'm
the end
give them the benefit
at the end of the day, it's still a ship that when you go and you have to fly it, you got to think about a lot more things. And the difference between taking out a Nomad and just hopping in the seat and flying away versus taking out a Galaxy and thinking of like, man, do I have to hire somebody for this today? Like,
the benefits have to be worth the risk, so to speak. All that extra money you get from working together versus the effort of working together, it has to pay off.
Absolutely. I'm just saying, for somebody who's playing alone, then that definitely makes a difference, and I think that's where a lot of people are starting to get that hesitancy for larger ships. But I mean,
make friends. Yeah,
make friends.
But that make friends thing, right? That you're saying that scares a lot of people off. But the player rating system, people are not going to want to stuff with their rating, right? And you get a person that joins the game, they've just got their Nomad, as you put it, and you put them in your ship, they're going to want to join you because the extra money that they're going to earn, and they go back and then instantly they've upgraded their Nomad to a Cutlass, just for in a couple of missions. So it benefits them greatly to join your crew. And I think that's where we're going to see that dynamic change. We've just got all these other things to come in. So I'm a bit worried people are scaring people off the bigger ships.
It'll be just like Death of a Spaceman. It's a pendulum swing, People will get scared, then they'll see it come into game, then they'll realize it's not that bad, and it'll balance out. So the joy of development, I guess. The other question I had for you guys, and we know that marketing picks pricing.
Yes.
It's obvious enough. But when it comes to how they build these ships out and sort of put them in the lineup, we know that like they recently did this with the Zeus. They got into the concept, they figured out what it needed to be, and now they're building it. Obviously did this with the Arastra and every other ship. Do you get how like in depth do you guys think they get into the sort of, I don't want to say theory crafting, but like thinking of the design of the gameplay of that ship and then
Can I start?
Putting it into the game? Yeah, go ahead.
I know, not at all. And this isn't like a theory. It's pretty obvious based off of the way, if you look at the way the ship team does they build it. They don't care about gameplay. Like, look at the Legionnaire discussion, where like basically none of the people who are building the Legionnaire know anything about hacking. Like, the whole concept of hacking is a completely different problem. That's a different team's problem, and it actually can be a little bit of an issue because the ship team has to design a lot of gameplay for the game, and it's obvious sometimes when you have something like the Storm where CIG doesn't, the ship team doesn't play its own game, so they don't know that the Storm is useless, and like it doesn't fit into gameplay. Like, it's bad design, it's bad, its performance is garbage, like everything about it is bad, and it was, but like they and I hate going down on a ton of bricks on the guy because I know he's a newer designer, but like CIG doesn't help it by like fluffing the heck out of it because they've been talking about how it's perfect, and it's like, no, you released a dud. It's a dead fish. Like, because
like that bad director where they go, oh, we'll fix it in post.
Yeah,
it's that.
they're gonna have to completely revamp that vehicle to make it function with gameplay. Because it doesn't work even in gameplay right now. So like, and that's an example of like that design kind of disconnect between the people who are like, I want to make a cool ship, and the people who are like, I want to make a game. You know, and there is a disconnect between it, 100%. Like, sometimes I think it depends on the designer though. Some designers, like the people who did the Sulian, perfect. They understood exactly what they understood the assignment. Like they came in and did it. But there are other team members who are just like, oh, what is this for? Why? Like, I know it's cool, but who will buy this sort of thing? So
you're doing that whole argument of they're game developers, not like military people type of thing.
Yeah,
so they like, if you look at everything they've learned over time, they have improved upon improving. And I do think the more later a ship is designed, the better functionality it has. But I do think you can go back to things like, take your Storm example. I do think if they have to go back and radically shift something, they will.
Well, that's something that I'm always considering, is like, they're releasing these things and they all feel imbalanced, but at some point it's their job to make these things have a place in the game. So on one hand, I'm like, you know, whatever they're going to build the game for, they should be building around this. But there is always a chance they're not doing that. And like you're saying, there could be a disconnect between the people building the features and the vehicles, and they never bridge that disconnect and never get the vehicles to fit where they're supposed to.
We know that. Tell them about the taco truck. Paul, you got to tell them about the taco truck.
Okay, so at CitizenCon, I talked with 4 different developers who all told me they want a taco truck.
Yeah.
I talked to a lore writer who said I'd love to write lore for a taco truck. I talked to CIG ship team members who said they wanted to write a taco truck, and gameplay designers who said they wanted to do a taco truck for sales. None of them had obviously talked to each other because they'd all been like, oh, I really want to. And it's like, but you didn't talk. Like, there are heads of departments who I talked to who said they wanted it, but it's obviously they never talked to each other because they don't.
And so what did you do, Paul? You went and grabbed them and went.
And I pulled, you like this, and you like this. You all like the same thing. Just hit each other up in teams and start fucking work on it.
And that's
So
why,
if we get
folks,
if we get a taco truck, it's Paul's fault. Right. Yeah.
3.24 taco delivery missions before passenger transport. Look for Astropub. Find him.
Hey, I would do some space burrito missions.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
I deliver space pizzas. Like,
that would be so much better than the box delivery missions we have right now, right? Like, we get building interiors going, and you have to make little food deliveries to residential areas in ArcCorp. That'd be great.
For real, that actually would be pretty legit.
Yeah, kick their door in to get the actual money off them that they try to. So they take the pizza runs off.
Oh my god, we have people breaking into NPC apartments. Ah, gosh, they'd have to design so much around that. Okay, So the ships, you guys, is everybody kind of the same thought then, that it feels like the ships come into the game and they don't have as much direction as they should?
I would love that. Yes, I agree. I'd love there to be more synergy with regards to gameplay folks and ship design team folks. Sometimes it's hard though because they're designing ships for games play that doesn't exist yet, you know, and they kind of go like, okay, I need to use, you know, to take the term, we'll fix it in post. And I have to be honest with you though, CIG could do with talking to a few consultants in their various industries I'm going to be honest with you, the Storm is a prime example of it. If that thing is a bloody waste of time, in my opinion, and had they just talked to a person who works with armored vehicles, they would have learned very quickly that they need to change a few things. I get you. It's a space game. You're going to make it look cool, you're going to make it look sexy, all the rest of that business, and it's not going to be a perfect facsimile to something in IRL. I get that. But there's a lot of stuff we've learned, and a lot of design that's gone over the years to be used and tweaked.
And a good
It's just a
example.
button, Loken. You've just got to drive it backwards, and it's totally fine.
I want to fit it in a vehicle that's not a character, a bloody C2. That's what I want to do.
You're waiting for that.
All the military guys I've talked to said it is a medium tank, not a light tank.
We're gonna get like a knock or a hover quad sized personal tank from Tumbril that's just gonna stomp all over it.
I'm good with that. Give me a hover tank, baby. Let's go.
My biggest pet peeve of a ship that's come out recently is the A1 Spirit. And it's mostly because if you're going to tell me that this is supposed to be the faster bomber, that it actually doesn't bomb faster than the A2, it makes the ship essentially useless. It takes like 17 seconds to drop 5 bombs.
Yeah.
And then they're going to drop like 2 to 3 kilometers apart.
Yeah.
As you're flying. It is over your target.
Absurd.
And
that's
crazy.
An easily fixable thing, though.
Right.
That's
I'm not
really
sure.
fixable.
But how does that come out like that? Right? When the concept art, when everything that you've seen about this ship, when the trailers show it carpet bombing, and then
because that's someone making a cinematic and like animating it the way they want it to work, and the other person just goes, every 5 seconds you can drop one.
That's a
two
big
different
disconnect,
departments. Exactly.
Well, here's the thing, because we also know that this is an isolated incident for ships, because when they were talking, when Dr. McKinney was when he was doing his the design for the new boxes, he talked about how he busted out actual thesis papers on how logistics and how box movements and all that kind of stuff, and used some of those theories to help him design how to move boxes and how to stack them. Like, he was actually pulling from real world knowledge, because he's like, hey, I'm going to pull from this real world knowledge because it's going to help me understand how things flow. And I think that's what Loken is saying. It's like, we don't necessarily
no one's the chap who did the thesis paper on literally moving boxes. Yes, and look how good that system is as a result of using real world experience and then integrating it into the unique requirements of Star Citizen.
It's like Loken, we don't go out and talk to professional people and use that to inform us how gameplay might work with all these different things. It works so well. Like the mining stuff we did, the refining stuff we did. Like, you can go take any one of those professions and go talk to a real world person, and it lines up gameplay wise.
And I will explain, because I kind of follow a couple of the CIG devs who were getting involved in that whole thing, and I understand, like, at the end of the day, you just want to make a cool spaceships.
100%, yeah.
But you also have to make these ships and these vehicles for a game, and if you using references to real life to help you understand how to build stuff for a game will help you, because that gameplay, which is based off of real life, as we've all talked about already, needs to also have it's going to have that same sort of connection. So learning how things are designed for military vehicles helps you understand why they build what they do. It's not like there's a couple of people in Lockheed who are just slapping stuff together and going, this works. Like they spent years looking through these designs.
Well, to go to Astro's point is, like, they have Aegis Dynamics in the game, which is a legit defense contractor. Why not just pick up someone on the phone at Aegis and be like, hey, well, how do these systems work? Or how do ship systems work? How can we integrate all this stuff? Because they literally build naval warships. They do this. I mean, they don't do it very well, because I was on one, but they do it. So you can get some knowledge from these people on how to do this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Just figured it out. We make everyone at CIG have a private Spectrum and force them to use it, and then they'll eventually fix Spectrum.
Well,
that's it. We've solved it.
That's it.
The thing about this is, it sounds like a lot. Sometimes when this happens, for instance, in the situation you're saying, Astro, is a dev's own extra work on top of what they're doing, to that extra effort. And it's interesting to see that a single dev, maybe not always a single dev, but like a very, very small amount of people can make the biggest difference in a game.
Yeah. And I think but I think it comes down to also practice and like thorough, like culture. And I think the culture of the ship design team has always been, we're making cool ships for a space game.
Mhm.
And it's not been, we're making a video game that uses gameplay. And like, there just seems to be a disconnect. Like the highlight is there's a disconnect between what the ships are designed to do and what they're supposed to do
Yeah.
in gameplay. And
That's-
causes more problems to have to fix down the line. So
It's because of Squadron 42. They're working on Squadron 42. When they finally get around working on Star Citizen, then they'll fix all the ships.
Well, I
That's
was
how they
going to
look at
say,
it. Like, go ahead.
it makes sense that it's mostly combat ships that work how they're meant to, because that's what begets the gameplay we've had. All those other things that they didn't have gameplay to test it out on are the ones that have that more of that disconnect.
That's probably also why the Ares Strata is now more highly priced, because it's already got mining in the game. So people know what the gameplay is. There's less guessing about what it's going to be, so they know they can put the price up.
So to finish things
Like
off
if they
here,
so I'm just going to speculate this real quick. They bring out another salvage ship, that'll have an increased price as well, because it's a known gameplay. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. To finish things off here, because we're running out of time, I want to get your guys' top ships that we know. I mean, we've all seen the slideshow. There's going to be
Hang on, have you not seen an Inferno's episode? You know what I'm going to say.
the Cutter expedition.
Oh my god!
Your favorite?
Yeah, sure.
So Execute's looking for the new
it.
Cutter.
That's it. Yeah. The tomato terrapin. Yeah.
Well, I see now. I've got everybody coming into my streams telling me, "Hey, now Execute said that there's going to be a Mirai hovercraft." He said it. Yeah, so that's what happens. That's what happens when people say stuff. It gets around. So
that's the first and only shot I've ever done, and I put it all in there, and I've not talked about it really since. So
and it's all over the place. Well, yeah, I want to hear what you guys are thinking for the next year. Is kind of the top, maybe one or two ships that you're looking forward to, and why. And Marcus, we'll start with you.
For me, it's the Zeus, because I really feel as engineering gameplay comes on, as crew gameplay comes online, I think the 3 to 5 player crew ships are going to be the sweet spot. I think anything bigger than that is going to be kind of a headache. So I'm mostly looking forward to the Zeus line of ships.
That's a good looking series. Like they hit a really nice spot with that.
You're not going to be able to fix anything on the Zeus though, because you're blocked by your cargo, so you're screwed.
I'm not doing cargo with it.
Only on the CL.
I know. I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
Right.
I also like the that we see in the concept art. Now again, here we are talking about concept art. Who knows how closely that'll actually resemble the ship? But they have this kind of like tractor beam extender that you see on the back of the ship. I hope they get that in the other ships too.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Would be far cool if it was just a drone that had a tractor beam on it. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that would be nice.
All right, who's next? Who's got ships?
I'll go
I got
last.
one.
All right,
Go ahead,
do you want to go, Paul?
All right.
Go ahead, Logan.
So for me, top 2 ships. I mean, again, I'm Zeus all the way. I'm looking forward to that. It's a really competitive area of the ship market as well in terms of size and overall people who are going to use it. And just for my own personal vanity, the Polaris, because I want my torpedo frigate. I really want it badly. I'm sure it's not going to have any gameplay because there's not enough big things for it to shoot at yet. But bloody hell, I want that ship.
Apparently,
Come on,
Idris.
Like putting one of those Polaris torpedoes into an Avenger. Come on, that's going to be fun as hell.
No, I'm going to do it. Don't get me wrong. But no, I because I think truly I want to see what the CIG team can now do with all of their experience with a new large ship. We haven't had a new large ship for years. You know, they got very scared off of them once they sort of brought out like the 890 and the Starfarer and stuff like that, and the Reclaimer. They weren't really very well designed at the time. You know, they have their big issues. So it'll be really interesting to see what they're doing with that.
And these teams are hitting different than they were 3 years ago. Like these designs are consistently very interesting compared to what they were doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Who next?
What about you, Paul?
So the only ship that I'm looking forward to is not a ship, but
Taco truck.
Well, it's a ship, but it's more the part of it, and that's the king of all Star Citizen, the best ship in the game, the MPUV.
Oh, Redeemer. Right, yeah.
HUX. The MPUV, because they showed it off in that little thing, is that it's which it heavily implies it's getting modularity, because and it's really modularity is what I'm looking forward to, because I'm interested in seeing the MPUV get its modularity, the Retaliator get its modularity, and to see where they go with modularity in general. Because I think they're going to start getting some creative usage of some ships with these modularity stuff. And that's really what I'm excited for. It's just because it'll just take the turn ships that were just like, one trick ponies into these multiple different varieties.
Seriously.
Of ships.
The idea of the Caterpillar changes so much with modularity.
Yeah. Oh my days, it does.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not looking forward to that thing going up, because I made a joke, I made a quip about how it's going to be like twice as expensive, and then because I forgot how like expensive or how cheap it was. But I'm like, now thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, they might actually double the price. It might end up being $600 because like of the amount of modules that it could do.
That's a heck
just
of a ship,
because of how modular it is. So
you basically you don't need a hangar, right? Because you could just take the cockpit to land down on a planet if you want to. It's nice.
It's essentially a freelancer snub shuttle. Essentially,
yeah, because you can use it to like a 315p. You can undock it, and then you can use it to load and unload your actual ship from your command module.
Oh, that's right. Yes, right.
He stole that from me. He stole that from me. I want to get in that.
All right. Execute.
It was a combination because I mentioned how the 315p is actually a valuable ship because you can use it to load other ships, and a lot of people didn't realize that because they're like, it's fixed. It's not good. It's like it's a assistance ship. It's used for loading and unloading stuff. So
yeah, and then I remember the command module has the tractor beam on the left hand side, and then I took what Paul said and said, imagine now that totally disconnecting from the ship and reloading. It just gives a massive advantage over, say, something like the Hercules. Hercules doesn't even have a tractor beam.
Nope.
So it's going to have to land like it's just so tailored towards those vehicles that if you want to do cargo, it's all by hand, and that's going to be a nightmare.
And that's why you can't judge what a ship's going to be by the features it has at the moment. Because these features come in and they make. I love how the Sulin came in and made the Nomad seem like a better ship. Like that's what happens over time, and I think something like the tractor beam, maybe not a better ship, but it emphasized the Nomad's ability to carry cargo for its size. And I think that's happening with things like the tractor beam. That'll happen with the damage system, armor system, like all these things, engineering. So that's going to be cool to see. But what are your excitement points for the next year?
I think there's too many. Like, to be honest, this is why I talk about this breaking of the dam stuff. So I agree with Loken, the Polaris, and I agree with Paul with the modularity stuff, the Retaliator bombing coming in too. What are all those new ships that they showed off? Like, there's 10 of them, and they said plus more. We saw ships that have been announced, like the UTV, the vehicle, and was meant to be coming this year. We never saw it. All these different things that we see in the leaks that we haven't seen before. Like, what's the roof rack on the Scout Expedition? What the hell is that for? Just all these different things. There's just so much new things coming out because a lot of the designers on Squadron, you can clearly tell a lot of them have started to move over to Star Citizen, and so basically all these different gameplays are starting to roll. You must have noticed it yourself. Just the more and more features coming online as well.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think it is that starting, like it's a slow but gradual, almost like an avalanche, right? We're seeing the trickle of the snow start to come down, and it's just going to start to build up speed to eventually it's going to hit that dam, and the whole dam's going to get taken out by an avalanche. I know that's a really weird analogy, but I don't know what else.
Yeah, I've never heard of a dam getting taken out by an avalanche. Sounds exciting.
The seismic tremors around the dam, they're getting ready for it to blow. I got no idea.
Figure something out,
man. I can't make up these things.
All right. Well, those are some good calls. I'm gonna have to go with the Legionnaire because
really?
What the heck's gonna happen when that they have to get hacking?
I mean, it's a Duckin. It's a Duckin. That thing looks so fat now. Did you see it in the thing? We've been called the Duckin because she got thick. She just got bigger. Like,
I did not notice. I did not notice.
It's like they stuffed the original Legionnaire into the other Legionnaire, and that's what it looks like.
Cool. So that means they've probably done white box work on it at least. They had to expand the size. But that means that A, we would need to have hacking in game. B, we would need to have another ship with docking, which means we might see an update to docking. and see if we're lucky. That means that engineering gameplay would have to also exist, because kind of the point of hacking is covering the power system. So they can always put it in piecemeal, but I'm hoping that means that engineering and hacking both in next year.
I
The
hope
one
so.
Makes sense.
The one we really need is scanning, though, because to get that core game, I've said this before, but that core gameplay loop, we need scanning, because like pirates need to be able to find something of value, aka cargo, mining, whatever, and then because of that, that core gameplay loop is complete, and the attackers, defenders can then go after the pirates, and you've got this core gameplay cycle. We're just missing scanning, because if you talk to anyone like Moist Noodle or Avenger One or anything like that, trying to actually, or even Agent Letty when they do their piracy, trying to actually find someone is a freaking nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, scanning and quantum boost are both, I think, going to be big parts of exploration, and that can't come soon enough. Man, I wish they had just dropped it with the cutter. That would have been so cool. If they were like, and then the cutter expedition's out, and you guys can go try out this new exploration in 321. I would have been out of my seat.
I was actually kind of hoping that we would see the modularity come on with the Retaliator, because to my knowledge, that's finished. Like, there's nothing stopping them from putting it out into the game right now. Yeah. And that would have been a very big win for CIG. They're like, oh, by the way, Aegis Day, IAE, congratulations, Retaliator modularity. But we didn't get it. So
it's in the next 12 months, man. I think that video hinted that it wasn't coming at IAE, because that was in the video for the next 12 months.
There's also the whatever that small ship was that nobody really knows in that video. I think it was the number 5 ship. It looked about Spirit Freelancer sized, which is right in my alley. And it looked like something maybe Aegis Anvil or Crusader in design. I don't know really, but it looked interesting.
I think you can say it's a small ship and it's cargo based, and that's about it. Based on its measurements by taking the human and turning it sideways, I worked out it's roughly 23.6 meters, and you can clearly see some form of cargo bay.
Okay, so shorter than I thought.
Well, me and Paul went through this at one point, didn't we, Paul? Like, I think the one that we came back to was it the Bearcat at one point when we were talking about that. So there's so many different things it can be. But it's definitely a small ship. It's not a medium, so it's not a Zeus competitor. It's small.
Cool. All right, guys. That's about our hour. I don't want to take too much of your day, so I'll let you all go, but thank you for giving me some thoughts on ships, because, man, you can never stop. I mean, we could just keep going for a couple more hours.
Yeah.
We didn't even touch
really
half the stuff we were supposed to. But
talk about this all day long.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys joining me, though. Great discussion. I wish we got to get through more ships, but I do appreciate the opinions on kind of like where we are in the ship development pipeline. I think that's a conversation that we don't have enough, and it's just a fun one to trudge through.
We'll have to do a part 2.
Yes,
down the road.
Yeah. I think I'll probably be doing a couple more follow-ups, because we got a lot of ships coming. So before we go, I'll give you guys one last chance to let folks know where they can find you. We'll go in reverse order this time. So Loken, please.
So you can find me at twitch.tv/LokenPlays. I'm there 5 days a week at 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. EST. I'm also on Twitter, and you'll find me on YouTube at youtube.com/LokenPlays as well, where I make mostly Star Citizen content, and I take a look at some of the new cool games coming out soon as well. That's where you can find me.
Cool, Marcus.
You can find me on YouTube, Marcus Wynn, and on Twitch TV, Marcus Wynn _.
All right, execute.
You can find me in bed. Real shortly. You find me in Fronters, just YouTube in Fronters, or Twitch in Fronters. Yeah, and we do stuff on ships, sales, that type of thing. You'll find most of these gentlemen there. I will get Marcus on there at some point if he'll come, kicking and screaming, no doubt. But I'll get him there. Yeah, that's me.
All right, and Astro Historian.
You find me at twitch.tv/theastropub, youtube.com/theastropub live. And if you enjoy lore, then you can check me out at youtube.com/theastrohistorian.
A lot of lore stuff. So thanks again, guys. This is a good talk. Folks, if you enjoyed this, there are plenty more of these kind of bigger topic talks. Citizen Central, that's what this podcast is about. So go back through the different episodes, and we've got a lot of people you'll recognize from the community, but also a lot of topics that don't get discussed too often, but I think we get some pretty good opinions on. And this is available on audio platforms without ads. I know some people don't like that on YouTube to be like that. And yeah, other podcast launch sequence will be coming out weekly, of course, so keep an eye out for that. And thank you all for joining.